And welcome back to another Wednesday night live stream here at the Gridiron Expert. Man, feels good to be back. Feels good to be trying to do this on a regular schedule again. I think we only missed one all season long, so I can't really complain too much there. But guys, we're so glad to have you here in what is turning into a fantastic month of college football. Each week continuously, seemingly outdoing itself. Even the weeks that are supposed to be lackluster are outdoing themselves. It has been an unbelievable season so far, and we still have so much college football left to play. And that's the beauty of this, right? There's so much left to play. I've got a big Conference USA matchup on the TV to my left. Western Kentucky and Sam Houston was one of our top games of the week on our Week 8 predictions video. We've got big games tomorrow. I think we've got football in some capacity, including NFL, like every day up until like mid-November. I mean, it's really, at one point, I think last week, 2 weeks ago, it was like 50 straight days that football was going to be on. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful sight to see. But we're so glad that you guys could join us tonight, whether you're watching now, whether you're watching later, whether you come in and come out. We are pumped to have you as a part of our GE Nation, pumped to have you on the stream with us talking college football. We're going to open the phone lines later tonight. We're going to take your questions. We're going to take your calls. We are going to address everybody's questions and comments in the chat. We've got a lot to cover on our own end, so that's why it's going to happen later in the show. We've got to tell you our top 25. We didn't get to do our Week 8 Gridiron Expert GE Top 25 poll because we were on the road. We were traveling. We've got a lot of travel to do this fall, for better or for worse, and ran into some travel issues, so weren't able to get that video out. And I thought, hey, what better time to do our rankings videos than on our live stream where you guys can react to it live with us. So we are going to be doing that tonight. We're going to show you an updated playoff picture tonight, what our Week 8 playoff picture would look like if the season were to end today. We've just got so much to cover across the board. It should make for a fantastic Wednesday night hump day, getting us one step closer to a massive college football Saturday. In the meantime, I want to say hello to everybody that is here right now. Scotty B, the Baylor King. He was the first guy in the chat. So, Scotty, I appreciate you. J-Dog says, hello, almighty college football guru. What's going on, J-Dog? Happy to have you, man. Couldn't agree more that South Carolina needs to legalize sports gambling. I honestly think every state needs to legalize sports gambling. It is taking over the country. It is such a huge business right now. Why major states, Texas, I know it's not legal there, which I think is ridiculous. So many places don't have legal sports gambling, and I think it's insane because people are doing it. If it's not legal in there, you're finding ways to get around it. It's just this whole thing. But why it's not legal in South Carolina, Texas, maybe New York, as Jerry may have said, is beyond me. But Jerry, good to see you. Happy to have you here. Happy to have you here. DM, good to have you here. Let's see. I'll come back to your question or your comment, DM. I like what you just said, and it's something to actually address. We'll talk about some of the games later today. J-Dog's already asking if Texas is going to cover, if Georgia Tech's going to cover, things like that. Volcano, good to see you. Alex TV, good to see you. Carter Hansen, our resident Utes fan. Christopher Valdivia, is that right? Yeah, Christopher Valdivia, good to see you there. Happy to have all of you with us tonight and what should be a very, very fun night. Of course, we'll start the stream before we dive into everything with some quick promos. I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, Chris Gates Fitness, his online training camp. We've been promoting that all year long. He has a great setup over there. The link for that's down in the description below. You get 80% off if you use our promo code Gridiron. 80% off if you use our promo code Gridiron. A chance to get bulked up, man. Start putting on that muscle. It's about to get colder. It's fall weather. Got to go into winter. Put on some bulk. Put on some pounds in a good way. And do it through Chris Gates Fitness. He's got some great stuff over there and incorporates football into everything he does. So it was a great partnership, and I love what he's doing with his business. As Robert typically asks, he wants to know, where are we standing with our expert picks goals? We are 35 away. 35 away from reaching our goal of 100 subscribers. And as you have seen across the bottom on these other streams, 35 subscribers means we do a 24-hour live stream. And, I've already got like a loose layout of how we do it too. We have a lot of guests. We have a lot of big time topics. I'm working on a way to get you guys on the stream. Some certain fans on the stream, like show your face if you're interested in that, to be actually on the show. Maybe some NCAA video game gameplay as well. We got 24 hours to fill. And then, of course, that would lead into a Saturday where we would watch football with you live all day long. So that only happens, though, if we get to our goal of 100 Expert Pick subscribers. We'd love to get a couple more tonight. All you got to do is click the link down in the description below, go over to thegridironexpert.com, sign up, and it would be a great opportunity for you to do so because we are on an 8-2 run in our best bet section. That's just for college. We are on an 8-2 run in our best bets, and that's just college. We're hitting 66.7% of our NFL best bets. So we are killing it on the NFL slate. We are killing it on the college slate right now, and we don't plan on cooling off. We don't even plan on cooling off, guys. The weather might be cool enough, but we're not cool enough on our picks. Yeah, Robert knows. Robert knows what's up. Yep. We had to address it, man. 35 away. Go sign up. Be that guy. Help us reach our goal. I really think we can get there by like first week of November. I really do. If everybody chips in, everybody goes to town on it. So help us out. Let's get to that 24-hour live stream, which would be a very historic moment for us here on our channel. No doubt about that. No doubt about that. But we're glad to have all of you guys here with us. Let's just dive into it. Let's talk some football. And we'll keep promoting that stuff throughout the night, of course. But let's talk some football. And I promised you guys first our top 25 rankings. And we're going to start with that first. We're going to get through the housekeeping things first, and then we'll open the phone lines, answer your questions and your comments in the chat like we always do. Our top 25 rankings obviously got shaken up a little bit due to some interesting upsets that we had in Week 7. Some great games that we had in Week 7. Obviously, we had 3 massive ranked versus ranked matchups, none bigger than that Ohio State and Oregon game, which was just a thriller. We'll talk more about that tonight as well, but an absolute thriller over in Eugene. But let's start with it. We'll start with our top 10. Where's that best bet sign there? Starting our top 10, we do have a few things that maybe are confused a few people. So obviously, Texas should remain number 1. I saw a lot of people thinking maybe Oregon could be the number 1 team in the country. It wouldn't go that far yet. Texas is looking like the most complete team in the country to me as of right now. So Texas remains at number 1. Oregon, of course, skyrocketing up to number 2 from 5 to 2 in our rankings, taking that number 2 spot. I blanked for a second. After beating Ohio State, it was absolutely a thriller. Penn State moving up a spot after narrowly surviving Penn State or USC in LA. So that was a very fun game there as well. Nearly lost. USC, man, I feel bad for USC because they should be, one could argue, almost undefeated. You know, they narrowly lost to Michigan. They narrowly lost to Penn State. They got upset on the road against Minnesota. All of those games, they were leading in the fourth quarter, probably should have won them, and then fell short. So USC is a much better team than their record shows. Georgia dropping 2 spots, not because they did anything wrong, but the fact that they didn't look good against Mississippi State, and obviously a team like Oregon had a much better win than what Georgia put up. So they're going to be down at number 5. Have a great opportunity, though, to skyrocket in the rankings themselves so they can find a way to beat Texas on the road this Saturday. And our prediction for that video actually came out earlier this afternoon. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out today. Miami remaining at number 6. Clemson ahead of Alabama. So I think really 7 through 10 is what's interesting to me. I like Clemson ahead of Alabama right now for so many different reasons. But the biggest part is Alabama does not look good. They don't look good. They have not looked good since the first half of that Georgia game. And look, that Georgia game is going to hold some weight, right? It deserves to hold some weight. You beat a top 5 team at home. You deserve to have that, as a huge bright spot on your resume. But then you followed that up with a loss to Vanderbilt, who's not a bad team. As we've seen, Vanderbilt beats Alabama, follows that up with a win at Kentucky. Kentucky, who beat Ole Miss. It's not a good loss for Alabama, but maybe it's not as bad as we once thought it was. But then they followed that up. Everybody thought, they're coming back home to Tuscaloosa. They're playing a South Carolina team that just got torched in Columbia by Ole Miss. Alabama is going to mop the floor. Alabama's angry. They're going to mop the floor with South Carolina. And they only won by 2. So Alabama has not looked like the top dog that we thought they were after that game against Georgia. The last 2 weeks, they've looked terrible. And this week is going to be very interesting when they travel to take on Tennessee. He's going to answer a lot of questions for us. Last week, we actually talked about which Week 7 team or Week 6 team that lost should be more concerned. Should it be with Alabama? Was it Tennessee? Who was it that should be the most concerned? And I said it was Alabama or Tennessee. That would be my two most concerning teams, and they play each other. The loser of that game is in major, major trouble. The loser of that game will take their second loss of the year, and the schedule doesn't lighten up for either of them. Tennessee still has to play they got to play Georgia. They still got to play Vanderbilt, which might be tougher than expected. Alabama still has to play Missouri, I believe, later on in the year. They've got to play LSU. They've got to play Oklahoma, which maybe isn't saying much, but still, Clemson I think deserves to be ahead of them. They haven't lost since that Georgia game, and they've won every game in dominating fashion. Clemson woke up. They're looking very, very good, and it feels like we're on a collision course to see Miami and Clemson in the ACC championship game for a spot in the college football playoff, which would be awesome. LSU does jump into our top 10 following their home overtime win over Ole Miss, 29-26. One of the better games of the night that I think kind of got overshadowed because of the Ohio State-Oregon game. The LSU-Ole Miss game was phenomenal, scoring on the first play of overtime for LSU. They're in the top 10, number 9, but on upset alert against Arkansas this Saturday. So LSU, their stay in the top 10 could be very short-lived if they do lose to the Hogs in Fayetteville. And then Iowa State, my man Mitch, my man Cyclone Steve, guys like that might not like to see them dropping a spot, but Iowa State still in the top 10. I love this team. I love what they're doing defensively. They've got a heck of a team in Ames right now. They're not dropping because they didn't do anything wrong. They beat West Virginia on the road by 12. That's an impressive win. It's more so LSU had a better win over Ole Miss. Clemson's playing well, guys like that. So Iowa State, though, still to me, arguably the best team in the Big 12. I know many want to say BYU, and BYU is right behind them at number 12, but I like Iowa State as the best team in the Big 12 as of right now. That is currently probably my pick to make the Big 12 championship, even though my preseason pick was Kansas State, and I do believe they're still contenders too. The Big 12 kind of top-heavy right now, going to be a wild finish when the season's over. But that's our top 10. Over in 11 through 20, Notre Dame drops a spot, not because they did anything wrong, but because LSU winning kind of propelled them over Notre Dame, propelled them over Iowa State, guys like that. BYU moves up 3 spots following a 41-19 win over Arizona. God, BYU, man. I mean, who would have thought? Last year, they barely missed out on a bowl game, going 5-7. They really had no offense whatsoever, and now the offense is firing on all cylinders. The defense is playing insane. Give BYU and Kalani Sitake a lot of credit for what they have done this year. The Cougars are legitimate playoff contenders, and that is not something that I thought was going to happen this year at all. I don't think anybody thought that would happen this year. BYU was a team that I don't even think I had going bowling, but it was one of those teams where it was like getting to a bowl game is a winning season. Like getting to a bowl game makes this a successful season. Now they're thinking potentially playoff, and that is not far-fetched. The schedule lines up very well for them. If they keep playing as well as they've been playing, BYU should find themselves in Arlington for the Big 12 championship game. If they win that, they're in. Even if they lose that, if they're undefeated at that point, you can make the case they should get in as the 9, 10, 11 seed, something like that. So watch out for the Cougars. Texas A&M remains at number 13. Really, no arguments there. Kansas State up 2 spots following their win on the road at Colorado. What a win for them. That was a game that they had in the bag. And then they decided that powerful running offense decides to start throwing it at the end of the game, ends up throwing a pick. Colorado scores late. You think, oh my God, the Buffaloes are going to find a way to win this thing. And then Kansas State, give them credit. Give Avery Johnson credit. He throws the pick. Now they're trailing and immediately leads Kansas State right back down the field. Beautiful deep bomb, retakes the lead. Defense closes it out and gets a stop. So Colorado, not an easy place to play. A wild finish late on Saturday night. But the Wildcats, my preseason pick to win the Big 12, I'm not going to budge on it yet. I still think Iowa State and BYU might be better than them as of right now, as you can see in our rankings. But, hey, there's no reason for me to stray from Kansas State until they give me a reason to. That loss to BYU was bad, yes, but they're looking good outside of that. How about Tennessee? You know what's fun about this? I can take more time to explain my my rankings here on the live stream. I can take more time to explain it to you guys and get y'all's live thoughts than having to try to really go fast through a video because for some reason you guys don't like to watch videos that are longer than 12 minutes. YouTube doesn't like that. I don't know. But I like this a little bit better. Tennessee in at 15. They should have lost to Florida, man. I look at Tennessee. They've got a good team. They've got a good quarterback. They've got the talent. but they got exposed against Arkansas. Florida kind of replicated Arkansas's recipe there. Had Tennessee on the ropes in Knoxville, down 10-0. Graham Mertz gets hurt. They blow the lead. They go to overtime. They can't do anything. Tennessee survives 23-17. That's concerning to me. If, Arkansas and Florida aren't necessarily world beaters by any means. Losing to the Hogs in Fayetteville, okay, tough environment, whatever. But when you come home, kind of same thing as Alabama. We kind of both expected Alabama and Tennessee to come home after losses and light these teams up, and they didn't. Both those teams were double-digit favorites. Both those teams won by one possession in games that came down to the final seconds. That's a concerning look for both, which makes Alabama and Tennessee this Saturday even more intriguing than it already was going to be. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. And we're going to have that prediction between Alabama and Tennessee tomorrow. Alabama and Tennessee prediction coming out on the channel tomorrow. So do not miss out on that. Mitch, my guy, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate that super chat, man. Thank you, thank you, thank you. 12-0 for the Clones. It ain't far-fetched. Almost say it ain't far-fetched. Playoff-bound Clones, it ain't far-fetched. And we'll talk about that in a second because they are in our playoff picture. They are in our playoff picture as of right now. So, Mitch, I appreciate that super chat, man. Really appreciate you and love seeing your Clones doing so well. Pittsburgh up 4 spots, up to number 16. They beat Cal 17-15. Pittsburgh's undefeated. They are, to me, a very similar team to BYU, a team that was disappointing last year, didn't have much of an offense, revamped the offense. We didn't think it was really going to pan out for them that as well as people thought it would, and now they are looking at playoff, right? Pittsburgh is a dark horse in the ACC. We're talking about Miami. We're talking about Clemson. Some are even talking about SMU, who we have ranked below Pittsburgh. And the Panthers are like, hey, what about us? We're unbeaten. We're winning games. We're looking good. We absolutely could be playoff contenders, and we can compete in a wide-open ACC. So Pittsburgh nearly in the top 15 for us, ahead of a team like Boise State, who is the highest-ranked Group of 5 team in our rankings right now. Ashton Jeanty, give him the Heisman. Just give him the Heisman. We need to riot. If Ashton Jeanty does not win the Heisman Trophy, assuming he continues at the rate he's going, there needs to be a riot as to why he didn't get it. No one else deserves that Heisman Trophy right now other than Ashton Jeanty. Again, unless he gets hurt or unless he completely falls off. But neither of those things seem likely. This guy is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And again, I don't want to see Boise State in the college football playoff. Depending on who they draw, and keep in mind, the Broncos, everybody kind of has them fixed in to that 12 spot because I think in our minds we think, Group of 5 team automatically gets a 12 seed. That's not the case. If Boise keeps winning and teams ahead of them keep falling, and that's very likely because the teams ahead of them have tougher schedules, Boise State does not, they could end up finding themselves as one of the highest ranked conference champions, like top 4. They could get a bye week. There's a possibility there. There's a possibility. Everybody's got this mindset. Oh, they're factored into 12. They could be higher than 12, and that completely changes everything. Bottom line is you don't want to see Boise State in the playoff. Ole Miss down 7 all the way down to 18. Look, Ole Miss, I don't know what happened to them, man. One of the best offenses in the country, and they have been made mortal. Kentucky shut them down in Oxford. LSU shut them down in Baton Rouge. The offensive line was atrocious on Saturday against the Tigers. I mean, I don't know what's happened to Lane Kiffin's squad. I guess money can't buy you everything, right? They went out and added all these guys to the NIL and the transfer portal. Lane Kiffin was the portal king, and it's not panning out. For some teams it does. For some teams it doesn't. It really hasn't panned out well for Ole Miss, who has a tough schedule coming up too. They still haven't played Georgia. They still haven't played Arkansas and Fayetteville, where they never play well. So what was supposed to be kind of a playoff or bust year for the Rebels could result in a 3 or 4 loss season, and where they completely missed out again. And that would be one of the most disappointing teams in the entire country if that does end up happening for Ole Miss. Really, I think Ole Miss to make the playoff, they've got to win out. Ole Miss to make the playoff has to win out, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's just not happening. They're not winning out. It's not going to happen. So very disappointing year for them, dropping 7 spots to 18. Indiana dropping a spot. Not that they did anything wrong. Just, again, the movement around them, they dropped to 19th. Missouri up 3 spots, not because their win over UMass is something to brag about, but because of the teams ahead of them losing. They're in at number 20. They have an interesting game at home this Saturday against Auburn, a game that I think Missouri should win pretty handily. I see a lot of people picking Auburn. A lot of people think Auburn's going to cover that very low spread, which was surprising. I think Missouri dominates in that game. I have no faith in Auburn whatsoever. And then rounding out our top 25, we ranked them. The AP, they're cowards. We ranked Vanderbilt. we ranked Vanderbilt. Look, I know that Georgia State loss is really bad. All right. I know it's not a good look. I'm aware of that. But look, you beat the number one team in the country. And I'll be honest with you. I will be fully honest with you. I wasn't. Vanderbilt's win over Alabama was not a fluke at all. It wasn't. But then when they had to go on the road to Kentucky, and I was like, yeah, this is just a prime letdown spotlight. Vanderbilt's riding this high. They're going to end up losing to Kentucky, and all that excitement from their win over Bama kind of dissipates. That's not what happened. They beat Alabama, and then they went on the road to Kentucky, who went on the road to beat Ole Miss, if you want to use that transitive property, and beat them by a full touchdown. It wasn't like a game-winning field goal type of game. They beat Kentucky, and their defense held Kentucky, 13 points? It was a 20-13 type of game. So Vanderbilt proved they could win a shootout like they did against Alabama. They proved they could win a low-scoring game like they did against Kentucky. They proved they could play from behind or battle back like they did against Virginia Tech back in the season opener. They were up ahead early. They allowed Virginia Tech to crawl back into it. They didn't lose their cool. They won the game in overtime. So Vanderbilt has won a game in just about every way you can imagine. They've won in blowout fashion. They've won in narrow wins, high scoring, low scoring, overtime. Love what I'm seeing for Clark Lee's squad. I want them to go bowling. If they beat Ball State, and they should, this Saturday, they're going to be 5-2. And I was looking at their schedule. I mean, don't rule it out. I mean, I don't think they're going to be Texas and Nashville, and Tennessee might be hard, but they've still got to play Auburn, and they've still got to play South Carolina, and all they've got to do is win one of those. If they can just win one of those, Vanderbilt will be going bowling, which is pretty freaking awesome. I really think this was like the do or die year for Clark Lee, and he has silenced all the doubters. And this era of the NIL and the transfer portal and things like that, he's going to be able to build teams better than previous coaches at Vanderbilt have been able to do. And I think it's going to work out very well for him. So I'm very excited to see what's in store over the next few weeks, really the rest of the season for the Commodores. But yeah, we ranked them. AP has them right on the outside looking in, and we did it. I was like, they deserve to be ranked. They absolutely do. So they come in at number 25. Navy, I know some will say Navy needs to be in there. They're 26 for us. So Navy just barely missed out. They win this Saturday, Navy's in, right? So don't worry about that. Illinois remains at number 21. SMU up 2 spots. Nebraska up 2 spots. They play Indiana this Saturday, so it'll be a massive game in the Big Ten. We talked about that in our Week 8 prediction video. And then Army, as some of you have mentioned, very excited to see Army there. I love this Army team. Not only do I love this Army team because they've won us a lot of money, they have been some of our best bets in our expert picks over the last few weeks just because of how dominant they are. But they're fun to watch, man. They are the most efficient team in college football. Not the best team in college football, the most efficient. They don't make mistakes. They are very disciplined. They run that triple option to perfection. The defense is unbelievable. I always get nervous when I see a team that's got a really good passing attack. I go, ooh, can those Army corners really hang with them? And they do every single time. Like Army, it's this type of success. We've seen Jeff Monken do really great things with the Black Knights year after year after year. This type of success is kind of unprecedented. The fact that, Army is a legitimate college football playoff contender. Keep in mind, guys, Army's sitting at number 24 right now. The schedule is pretty favorable down the stretch. Their toughest game remaining is probably Notre Dame later in November. Who knows what could happen in that game? But if they somehow go undefeated, they're going to the playoffs if they can win the American Conference. And I think they will if they get to that point. So don't sleep on Army. Don't sleep on Navy. They are 2 teams that could very well find themselves in the playoff hunt by the end of the year. And I love it. I freaking love it. So I love watching this team. I have so much respect. You can see we've got our Navy. We'll get rid of the scrim. But we got our Navy pennant back here, our Army pennant back here, and we've got an Air Force one right below it that you might not be able to see. Those were sent in by DM and Murph the Surf, our two great friends, honestly, that have been so kind to us and have been such great supporters of the channel. And I know they share the same sentiment towards the military academies as I do. So it's really, really fun to see these 2 teams doing so well. And again, the fun idea that I think is floating around the minds of college football fans is what if, Army keeps running the table? What if Navy keeps running the table and they're both undefeated and they play in the American Championship game? But then the next week, they're supposed to play each other in their regular season matchup. Like, right, if you go back and look historically, like Army and Navy have already accepted their bowl bids before they play each other in the regular season, before they play the Army-Navy game. Typically, if the team is sitting there at 5 wins, they don't wait for a bowl destination depending on the outcome. You're probably just not going bowling. But this, if that were to happen, if Army and Navy were both to go undefeated, and really more so undefeated in conference play, if they're both to meet in the American Championship game, if that game possibly could decide if one of those teams goes to the college football playoff, how does the committee do that? Do they value that game? Do they say, well, wait, we can't put you, because the Selection Sunday is the day after the American Championship game, right? So I don't know. I think there'll just be a dream scenario for all of us. There'll be a dream scenario for football fans across the board. Robert says, who's better, Army or Navy? I go Army. And I'm not going to say by a long shot, because Navy obviously runs a very similar offense, and they've got a very talented team, and they've played very, very well. But if they were playing tomorrow, I'm picking Army in that game, just because of how dominant they've looked. They've looked so efficient. They've been so dominant. They've looked dang near unstoppable. And I think they're going to dominate Eastern Carolina, for what it's worth. They're going to dominate ECU, because why wouldn't they, right? I mean, they've done it against everybody. Did you know that Army hasn't even trailed this season? Army has not trailed for a second, 1 second, all year long. So not only are they dominating these teams and they're winning these games and they're winning in dominating fashion, they have not trailed for a second, not even a quick 3-0, 7-0. They have been leading in every game they've played. It's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable run. I know the competition hasn't been amazing, but still, it's pretty remarkable. So I love what I'm seeing out of the Black Knights. All right, last thing I want to talk about before we kind of open up the phone lines and answer your questions and comments in the chat. I wanted to show you what our Week 8 playoff picture would look like. I know Mitch was very excited about the Iowa State Cyclones, and we just showed you our GE Top 25 rankings. Remember, this playoff picture is based on those rankings, right? It's not based on the AP polls, not based on the playoff committee's polls when that comes out later on this, I think in November. It's based on what we put out, based on what we have. And based on what we have, this is what it would look like. This is what I think it would look like right now. And it's pretty awesome. I just got to say, right? I mean, look at the matchups that we would have. I mean, and once again, look at the difference that would happen here, right? Look at the difference in the span of 1 week. If you go back and watch our live stream from last week, Alabama was hosting Clemson. Like, in the matter of 1 seed line, like in our rankings, we have Clemson at 7, Alabama at 8. That 1 spot is the difference between hosting a first-round game or traveling to a first-round game. Could be the difference of whether or not you go to the next round or you go home early. I mean, that's how important this season is. That's how important each game is. So I will continue to stress the people that say, oh, the 12-team playoff makes games less important. They don't know what they're talking about, because every game still has a huge amount of importance and significance. There's no doubt about that. So, and I think what we're seeing here just in these early preview of Clemson, Alabama is a great spot of that. Georgia is a great spot of that. Last week, Georgia, they didn't even lose. They beat Mississippi State, but they get to host LSU, sure. But I think Georgia would much rather get to host Boise State. Boise State, no slouch, but I think I'd much rather get to host Boise State than a pretty solid SEC team. And basically, with essentially an extra conference game, no doubt about that. So these opening round matchups would be amazing. And this is just going to be the beauty of the 12-team playoff, the beauty of this format. I would pick Clemson over Alabama right now, especially with the game being played in Death Valley. I would pick Penn State over Boise State in Happy Valley, although I think that game would be very close. Very, very close. Ohio State and Notre Dame over in Columbus. I would pick Ohio State to win that game. I wouldn't say comfortably, but I think they'd win by at least a touchdown. And then Georgia and LSU would be a barn burner in Athens. LSU's passing attack against the Georgia secondary that's been really, really bad this year. That would be a lot of fun to watch there, too. A lot of close games. Obviously, the teams that get the first-round byes, Texas, we have as our number 1 team. They are a projected SEC champion. Oregon would be the number 2 seed. They're the number 2 team in our rankings, projected Big Ten champions. 3 would be Miami, who is the highest-ranked ACC team in our rankings, but just barely. And again, that kind of shows you the importance of a seed line. We have Miami ranked 6 in our rankings. Clemson is ranked 7th. But in the playoff, Miami would be number 3 and Clemson would be number 8. 1 spot difference in our rankings would lead to a 5-spot difference in the playoff seeding. Once again, very, very important. So Miami at 3. Then Iowa State. We have Iowa State ranked 10th, the highest ranked Big 12 team as of right now. BYU is closing that gap. BYU is number 12 in our ranking. So it's getting very close between the Cyclones and the Cougars, but Iowa State still holding on. They would get that 4th seed in a first-round bye where I think they'd host Penn State or they'd play Penn State, and I think they'd lose that game. I think it'd be very, very close, low scoring, but I'd lean more towards the Penn State side in that one. And honestly, that would be a great year for Penn State. Missing out on the 14 playoff year after year after year. In their first year of the 12-team playoff, they win 2 games and get to the semifinals before they lose to Texas, who I think right now would be my national title favorite. Not a bad season. So all in all, guys, this would be an extra matchup. I mean, can you imagine these opening round matchups and then those semifinal matchups? Talk about the parity. Talk about the differences. You're not seeing Georgia. You're not seeing Alabama. You're not seeing some of these teams that maybe you've grown tired of seeing. You don't see Michigan. Nowhere to be found is the reigning national champions in Michigan. Your national championship could be Texas and Ohio State, Texas and Oregon. You would have the possibility of maybe seeing Oregon and Ohio State part 3 for a spot in the national championship game. That is the beauty of the 12-team playoff. Again, this is going to change so much. If you've been watching our live streams, they change so much from week to week. There's no doubt about that. It's going to change so much by season's end. We're, of course, going to have you covered every step of the way. And there's so many teams on the outside looking in that could wiggle their way into the field as soon as next week. You know, I see Andrew down there says A&M has a path. Yeah, A&M absolutely has a path. Texas A&M's schedule is so easy and so favorable the rest of the way. Their only loss is to Notre Dame, who's playing pretty good football right now. Their toughest game remaining is probably Texas at the end of the year, and they get to host that game in College Station. So A&M could get in there. Kansas State could still get in there. Tennessee's on the outside looking in, but Tennessee could wiggle their way back in. Army, Navy. There are even a handful of teams right now that aren't ranked that have 2 losses that if they got hot could find their way in there. Like, do not rule anything out. It feels like we're getting towards the end of this season, right? But we've got so much ball left to play. So much. We're entering week 8. We're midway through October, 3rd Saturday in October, right? And, it sounds like, we're getting close to the end. And in a way, if this was still the 4-team format, I would say we are. If this was still the 4-team playoff format, I'd say, yeah, a lot of these, like, for example, Ole Miss. If this was still the 4-team format, Ole Miss would be done. Ole Miss would be out of the playoff picture right now. They're not in our playoff picture currently, but if the Rebels were to win out, they'd be in there. But the 4-team playoff, they wouldn't be. Like, 2 losses always had you out. And now there's teams that have 2 losses that are ranked that are still in the hunt. There's teams that have 2 losses that are not ranked that could make a run. It's not going to happen, but take Arkansas, for example. I think you could pitch to Arkansas should be 6-0 right now. They should have beat Oklahoma State. They should have beat Texas A&M. The Hogs have been playing really good ball. If Arkansas were to win out, or heck, even if they go just one more loss down the stretch, that might be good enough to get them into the SEC championship game, which means if they were to win that, they'd go to the college football playoff. Even under the old 4-team format, 10-2 with a win in the SEC championship probably wouldn't have been good enough to get into the playoff. 9-3, win the SEC title. 10-3, probably still not good enough to get in the playoff. This year it would be. So much at stake for so many teams. So many teams are still alive. The games still matter for some of these teams. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I really don't know the hate behind the 12-team playoff format. I just don't. I just don't get it. But that's it. That's our 12-team playoff format. That is our GE Top 25 rankings heading into Week 8. We didn't get a video out for that this week, again, due to some travel issues. We will be back with an individual video for our Week 9 rankings on Monday, and we'll be anxious to get your thoughts and comments for it then. So we will be back to our normal schedule when it comes to that then. Although if we ever run into any other issues, I thought this was a very efficient way of doing it, and enjoy getting all of your thoughts as we're doing it live. All right. That's good stuff. Want to do a couple more plugs and then answer a few questions in the chat and then open up our phone lines. Want to keep plugging the expert picks. So we have a lot of people on the stream right now. I'm going to continue to plug that. You can get mad at me. You can get bored with it. I don't care. We want that 24-hour live stream. And we can get to our 24-hour live stream if we hit 100 subs at any point this season. Like, it doesn't have to be tomorrow. It doesn't have to be tonight. We're slowly inching towards this. Every expert pick subscriber counts. We just need 35 more. We haven't even hit the official Week 8 Saturday, and we're already 65% of the way there. So We'd love for you guys to go sign up, be that guy, contribute to the team, become a part of the team, and win big because we're doing a really good job with these expert picks. We're on an 8-2 run in our college football best bets, 80%. We're hitting over 66% of our best bets in the NFL side of things. We're beating out over 80% of the national handicappers, not just this year, but have done so each of the last 6 years. So, again, if you haven't signed up, you're truly missing out. If you are signed up, you are, hopefully winning with us. I mean, if you're taking the bets, you're winning. I can tell you that. So check it out. The link for it down in the description below. Help us reach our goal. Help us continue to grow our GE Nation, man. I'm telling you, we want this. I think you guys want this too. But we definitely do. We definitely would love to show how powerful the GE Nation is, for sure. I want to address a comment that DEM had earlier, and I really liked what he said. I guess in a way it's what I said. He said 6 months ago. God, that'd be April. Yeah, geez, years flying by. I predicted these 4 teams as playoff dark horses: Kansas, Utah, Iowa, and SMU. And I think I can maybe still hit on 2 of them, maybe. Like Iowa and SMU aren't fully out of it yet, but Kansas and Utah definitely are. Isn't it crazy, right? Like back in the preseason, and that's the craziness of college football, right? All these teams have massive preseason expectations, or you look at a team's given roster and you look at their schedule and you go, oh yeah, they could be in for a great year, and then they either live up to those expectations or fizzle out. Kansas, prime example of a team that fizzled out. I was really excited for them. Thought they had one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12. Thought the defense was finally getting there. Thought the offense would be firing on all cylinders. And their season ended when they lost to Illinois. I mean, that sounds ridiculous to say it ended in week 2, but it did. When Kansas lost on the road to Illinois, their season was over because they looked so bad in that game against Illinois, and it only got worse. What is Kansas now? Like 1-5? I mean, it's unbelievable. And what hurts for Kansas too is that so many of their losses, I think all of their losses, have been one possession, right? They lost by a possession to Illinois, and a possession to Arizona State, possession to West Virginia. Like they've had so many opportunities to rack up wins and just couldn't do it, couldn't close out these games. But I really thought Kansas could go on a run and be a Big 12 title contender. Missed out there. Another Big 12 team, Utah, was supposed to be really good. And then Cam Rising just is made of glass. I mean, poor guy and poor Utah fans. This was supposed to be the year, right? First year in the Big 12. Cam Rising's back after missing all of last year. He comes back last week against Arizona State, and then like right after they go, oh yeah, he's not healthy. We're shutting him down like NFL. We're shutting him down for the rest of the year, and we're exploring the option for an 8th season. 8 years of Cam Rising. Can you believe that? I mean, I don't know if I'm for it. I don't know if I'm against it. I mean, I'm for it as a fan. I'm for it as a college football fan and a team that respects the heck out of Utah. But at the same time, it's like, dude, 8 years? Like, give it up. Give it up. Like, when is enough? It's just so crazy that he's battled this many injuries and that it's been this consistent for him, injury-wise. It's a shame, and I hate it, man, because Utah always has a good team. I firmly believe they would have been a Pac-12 title contender last year had he been healthy all year long. I fully believe they would be in the Big 12 championship if he had been healthy from start to finish. I'm not saying they would beat Arizona State last week, although it was very, very close. They've had so many opportunities, and he just can't stay healthy, man, which is good that they have some guys behind him that are getting playing time, that are preparing for life without him, preparing for the future of Utah football. Because I feel like for the last 5 years, it's been the Cam Rising show. But man, what a tough blow for a team that once again had high expectations, and they're not going to meet them. Iowa, kind of same thing. Iowa's up and down, but Iowa's one of those teams that until they really fix their offense, and they've shown flashes of brilliance, right? They've shown flashes of brilliance. But until they really fix their offense, they're never going to be able to hang in the Big Ten, right? Like they're going to beat the teams that are weak. They're going to beat the Michigan States, the Purdue's, every now and then Nebraska, and they have won the majority of those of them late. But they're not going to be able to hang with like Penn State, Ohio State, down the road, maybe USC, Oregon now in the Big Ten. Like, they're going to beat the teams that are mediocre to below average. That's what's going to happen. But they're not going to be able to beat the top dogs. So, and that's what Kirk Ferentz always does, right? Like, when's the last time you remember Iowa really winning big games, right? I know they beat Ohio State back in 2016. They've beat Michigan before lately. I mean, I get it, but they have yet to make the college football playoff. Obviously, they've been in the hunt a few times. Their defense is always phenomenal, but until they can pair a really good offense with that defense, they're just not going to get there. So I have them as a playoff dark horse because, 10-2 probably would be good enough to get them to the college football playoff. I mean, honestly, 10-2, even if they don't play for a Big Ten title, might be good enough to get them in there as a 10, 11 seed. It's not out of the realm of possibility. But they need a quality win. They need a quality top 25, top 15 win. And the two toughest teams they played this year, Iowa State and Ohio State, they lost both. So kind of crazy stuff there. And then SMU. SMU always burns me. I always have high expectations for them. They always fall short. And that looked to be the case this year. And then they switched from Preston Stone to Kevin Jennings, and things took off. I didn't think they beat Louisville on the road a few weeks ago, and they did. So a massive win for SMU there. They've got, who they got this week? Is it Stanford? SMU and Stanford? They should beat Stanford. They crushed Florida State, which isn't saying much, but they've got the quarterback now that I think could get them over the hump. Love what they're doing offensively. SMU's got one loss, right? They lost to BYU, which at the time looked like a bad loss. Now it doesn't look like a bad loss at all. And I think SMU has a chance to flirt with an ACC title bid. Again, we're all talking about Miami. We're all talking about Clemson. But the two teams you need to watch out for in the ACC that can make some sneaky run are Pittsburgh and SMU. So I'd say I'm 2-2 here. Kansas and Utah are out. Iowa and SMU still flirting. Probably not going to happen, but not ruling it out yet. But DM, thank you for bringing that to my attention. That was a really good callback. Really, really good callback. Michael Buck, good to see you, man. I'm happy to have you here, Michael. Can I be your father? That was it? Yeah, you be my father. I'll file the papers immediately. I will go down and we'll file the adoption papers, and I would love to adopt you, Michael. Come home. The GE Nation as a whole will adopt you. And he also says he can't wait to see. Good to see you, man. The Indiana first round bye in the playoffs. That's not far fetched either. Indiana is currently the number one team in the Big Ten right now. If you go and look at the standings, Indiana is on top of the standings, undefeated, ranked, looking good, owning the tiebreakers right now as the top seed. They still have to win the Big Ten championship, obviously, but they have a very good offense, a very well put together defense. Schedule's been very weak. Nebraska is arguably the toughest team they faced all year, but they get to host the Cornhuskers this Saturday. I think they're going to win that game this Saturday, and I really think Indiana can go 11-1 with the only loss on the road to Ohio State. And I think that game would be closer than people realize too. So, man, I love it. I love parity in college football. I would love to see Indiana make the playoff. That would be a pretty. It's like a March Madness. You always pick like that Cinderella team, that one team that you hope goes on a run, even though it's not your team. You just want to see them do well. That would be Indiana for me. They're not my team, but if they get in there, I'm hoping they go on a run. Just like Army. Army's not my team, but I support the heck out of them. And if they got into the playoff, I'm absolutely rooting for them to go on a run and do something special. So that'd be pretty awesome. But Michael, good to see you. Appreciate those comments. Let's see here. We're gonna open up the phone lines here shortly. It'll be a shorter night on the phone lines, but y'all asked a few good questions. I didn't want to get buried. I didn't want to get buried. Everybody's saying that Cam just needs to go. Get rid of Cam Rising. Get rid of him. Longer career by Stetson Bennett than by 2 years. Call it quits. Carter, our resident Utah fan, says he can't decide if I'm for it or against it. At some point, I think it's enough. Yeah, and Carter, that's your last line. Your last line is kind of how I would feel too. I'm tired of always wondering if my quarterback will play. That just feels exhausting as a fan. Going in like you can't. And I know people, some outsider would think we all sound crazy, right? But like, I can't get excited for a game on Saturday. I can't get excited for a game or whatever it is if I don't know my team's at full strength. Like if he tears his ACL, I know he's out. Okay, now I can get my mind right. But like, it's hard for me to go. Like, it's exhausting to go. Yeah, if Cam Rising plays Saturday, I think we're going to win. But if he doesn't, I think we're going to lose. And if you're saying that every weekend, I mean, that has to be exhausting. And you would think for Kyle Whittingham, that has, and I know internally, I'm sure the players and the staff know, they know he's not playing, he is playing. Like, they're not going to let the press and the fans know that, but internally, they probably already know who's going to start. So that doesn't really hurt the team chemistry. It doesn't really hurt the team mindset. But if they are doing that, like, just make a decision, man. Like, I just feel like it'd be so easy. And if I was Kyle Whittingham, I'd get tired of it too. I get asked a million questions about my quarterback at every press conference I go to. I think eventually I'd be like, he's done. He's not playing. Stop asking me. Let's move on. But for some reason, they just don't do that. He's still a very talented quarterback. He gives Utah a fantastic chance to win. But, at some point, you have to ask, when is enough enough? All right, he comes back for his 8th year. What if he gets hurt in week 3 next year? We're going to apply for a 9th season? Like, when do you call it quits? And he has shown the last couple of years that he cannot stay healthy for whatever reason. So when do you finally say, you know what, we're just gonna be done. We're just gonna be done. Very, very tough spot to be in, not just for him, but for the entire Utah fan base. And I do genuinely hate that for you. And really for all Utah fans, for what it's worth. Let's see. Yeah, that puts it into perspective, doesn't it? Go back greatness. Cam Rising was playing college football at the same time as Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield. Yeah. Let's think about that. You've got Patrick Mahomes, who's now won, 3? Right? 3 Super Bowls? He's won 3 Super Bowls. Baker has played for 4 different teams in the NFL, and Cam Rising was playing college football with them. And also was originally committed to Texas, by the way. Rising was originally committed to Texas and then went over to Utah. Let's see here. Paul Townstein, good to see you, my guy. Happy to have you here. And then last question before we open up the phone lines. Austin Pruitt, good to have you. Does Ohio State possibly lose to Nebraska? Probably not. I don't think so. I am interested to see, though, how Ohio State rebounds going forward. Heartbreaking loss to Oregon. One of the games of the year, hard-fought game, coming down to the final second. Losing like that is heartbreaking, knowing you had a timeout in your pocket. Will Howard just has to be quicker. You either have to throw the ball away or get down quicker and give your kicker a chance to win the game. It honestly was kind of poor clock management across the board from Ohio State. It just felt like they didn't have great play call. And I know Oregon had the brilliant, absolutely brilliant 12-man on the field call. I know that was in play there, and it wasted 4, 5, 6 seconds off the clock. Great coaching move by Dan Lanning. So great that they're making a rule about it now. I mean, that's how good it was. But it was just really poor management across the board from Ohio State, and you kind of can't help but wonder now, what's in store for the Buckeyes going forward. The schedule still is tough. They've got a loss on their schedule. They've still got to play Penn State. They've still got to play Indiana. Never thought I'd say that as a big game. They still got to play Michigan. I think they're going to dominate Michigan, but rivalry games, you never know what can happen. Then they still have to go to the Big Ten Championship if they can get there. They're going to have to win that. They want to get there's so much at stake here. And Ryan Day has continuously shown us he can't win the big games. And I think eventually, if you're an Ohio State fan, kind of like the Cam Rising talk, win is enough in Columbus. It's great if you're consistently a top 5 team. But you know what? You don't hang banners for being a top 5 team. You don't hang participation banners. You hang banners for national titles and trophies. He hasn't won the Big Ten in 3, 4 years. Hasn't won a national title since he's been in Columbus. Only been to 1 national title game when they lost to Alabama in the COVID season. So, he's continuously lost to Michigan, kind of lost that streak, and now they're on a losing streak of their own. Losing to Oregon. You dominate Penn State. Was that say anything? Going to bowl games, and you haven't won all your bowl games. You get beat by Missouri in the Cotton Bowl last year. Yeah, they were down a lot of players, whatever. Made the playoffs a few times, lost to Georgia, lost somebody else a couple of years ago. So, win is enough for Ohio State. It's one thing to be really, really good in the regular season, but it's what matters in the postseason. What happens in the postseason that matters the most, and Ohio State is not winning in the postseason, and they're not winning the big games in the regular season. They can help them in their postseason path. So Ohio State, I still believe, is going to make the college football playoff, but when do you kind of take a look in the mirror and go, hey, this is not the guy that can get us to a national title? And this was kind of national title or bust for Ohio State. The amount of money they spent on these players, the amount of effort they went into getting, Will Howard and Quinshon Judkins and so many guys on the defensive side of the ball. Like, it was basically saying, we're tired of losing to Michigan. We're tired of missing out in the playoff. We're selling out to get a high playoff seed, and we have to at least make the national title, if not win it this year. Otherwise, it's a disappointing season. And right now, I would not pick Ohio State to go on to win the national title. I just wouldn't. Very, very interesting. All right, let's open up the phone lines. Let's get some calls for a little bit. I don't know how long. It'll be a little bit short. It'll be a little bit shorter tonight. Little bit shorter tonight. And of course, we're going to try to keep your calls within 5-ish minutes or so. Relatively short, so we can get through as many callers as we can, get as many guys on the line to hear your voice and to hear your thoughts and comments about college football. But that is our call-in number, 870-955-4797. And it already appears we're getting one right now. All I got to do is take a drink. All right, let's see. I didn't even hear who it was. Welcome to the Gridiron Expert. Who's with us?
Yo, it's Mitch. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, Mitch? How you doing?
Man, just doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Man, I got no complaints over here, man. I'm just living the dream.
Yeah, it is.
Mike?
Iowa State's doing pretty well this year.
Oh God, man, they've been unbelievable. They've been unbelievable. I know you're pumped. You have every right to be pumped. Because I mean, this is I'm not going to say unprecedented. I think we knew they were going to be good this year, but maybe not this good.
Yeah. And I just want to bring up, what do you think our record will be at the end of the season? Because if you think about it, we only have one true road game left, and that's at Utah. Iowa State plays at Kansas, but that's an Arrowhead, and let's be honest, Iowa State's probably going to have more fans that game, especially because Iowa State's going to be favored in their next two games against UCS and Texas Tech. So look out for that.
Yeah, let me. I'm going to pull up their schedule right now. I don't have all the team schedules memorized off the top of my head, but I do remember looking at it not too long ago and thinking how favorable it was. Because you're right, we know Ames is a difficult place to play. They're the only, and they got a really big break in a way. Utah is a tough place to play, but now we know for a fact that it's going to be a Utah team that does not have Cam Rising. So that's a huge kind of plus. UCF is very, very beatable. They just have not looked good, lost 3 straight games, benched KJ Jefferson. Texas Tech, ironically, is going to be a bigger game than people realize. That Tech's 5-1. They're undefeated in conference play. That kind of have major implications for the standings. But then getting to host Kansas State is huge. I mean, really the two biggest games, or the two games I guess I'd be most concerned about, are Texas Tech and Kansas State, and you get both of them at home.
Yeah, and that's honestly the exciting part, because the two road games that I was worried about at Iowa and at West Virginia, Iowa State's already won those two games, so that helps us a ton.
Yeah, I really thought the West Virginia game could be a trap game. Morgantown at night, really good rushing team, was going to maybe give Iowa State's defense a little bit of a struggle there, a little bit tougher fight, and man, they just ran. I mean, they got down 7-0 early, and then just completely dominated after that.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that Iowa State's down 5 different guys, 5 different starters at the linebacker positions. So you had true freshmen playing out there, you had walk-ons playing out there. It was crazy. But John Haycock, the D coordinator, he's one of the best in the business, I think. I think he's one of the most underrated coaches in college football, assistant coaches.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, and that's the beauty of Iowa State football, man. Is I remember, I guess it would have been last year, right before the season starts, all that, gambling stuff comes out, and there's this, giant scandal, and it was like Iowa State seemed left for dead, and they greatly exceeded expectations. And a major reason why we were so excited about them this year is because last year they got a winning record, went to a bowl game. So many young guys played last year and got so much experience, and now they even though some of them are underclassmen, freshmen, sophomores, whatever, they were practically like veterans heading into the 2024 season, and they're looking the part. So this is a team that's really, really deep, and for the next few years is looking to be in a really good spot because of, like you said, because of the amount of experience that these younger guys are getting.
Yeah, just got a lot of young and up and coming guys that are obviously playing right now, and that get that experience, and they're gonna become superstars on Iowa State.
Absolutely.
And then my final question is, so what do you think? What do you think the Big 12 championship game is going to look like? You think it's going to be Iowa State versus BYU, or do you still think K-State is going to make it to the championship game?
Yeah, I think right now it feels like Iowa State and BYU are kind of on a collision course for it, because BYU's schedule is really favorable too. They really don't have many tough games down the stretch. Kansas State was my preseason pick, and I'd love to see him get in there. I'd love to see him find a way to slip in and kind of make my prediction right. But considering Kansas State's got to go to Ames, like we mentioned, West Virginia this Saturday, not going to be easy. Arizona State, they host them, but kind of a surprising team in the Sun Devils. So the problem is with Kansas State is they've already lost to BYU. So they've already got a conference loss. So even if they win out but then lost to Iowa State, that's 2 conference losses, and they're not getting into the Big 12 championship unless either Iowa State or BYU collapses, and I just don't see that happening.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hopefully.
What you could run into, Mitch, is honestly, you could have Kansas State, Iowa State season finale being a Big 12 play-in game. BYU could have already clinched their spot by the time we hit that season finale, and then they could just be sitting there awaiting the winner of Kansas State and Iowa State. I mean, imagine how great that game would be, and how it's always a good game, but how even crazier that game would be if we knew that was what was on the line.
Yeah, not only that, let's say if Iowa State wins their next 5 games, and Iowa State can deliver the knockout punch to K-State at their season, that would be awesome as an Iowa State fan.
Absolutely. Oh, no, it would be insane. Senior day in the cold, obviously against a big-time rival, that would be kind of a picture-perfect way to end it, man.
Would. All right, well, thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a good one, man.
Hey, Mitch, we appreciate you, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, see ya.
All right, our man Mitch there. Let's see who this is.
Call from
Michael Lionheart.
All right. It says this was Michael?
Yes, it is.
What's going on, Michael? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, buddy. How about yourself?
Hey, doing well. No complaints.
Lovely. Good stuff. I almost cursed there. I don't want to curse on live.
Yeah, we had a guy do that a few weeks ago. We can't be having that.
No. Can't be having that. Listen, I'm a long-time Longhorns fan. I dig what Ohio's trying to do, but you know what? What's holding them back? Too many niggers.
All right. That's wow. Can't be having that. And we will not be taking a call from Michael again. Apologize for those of you listening. And hopefully YouTube doesn't do anything to us for that, because we definitely didn't know that was coming. That's why we need screeners, I guess. That's why we need someone to screen our calls. We need someone to, which, I mean, not that he would have said that to the screener. Okay. Again, we apologize sincerely. Live shows, whether it's live TV, live radio, live streams, you never know what can happen. And you just gotta hope that people do the right thing. So, having said that, we'll take some calls here in 1 second. We're gonna go to the chat for a second, let the phone lines die down. We'll keep them on. We'll take a few calls here in a moment. But again, we do apologize to you guys who did hear that, and apologize if you're watching later if you hear that. And we apologize to YouTube if you hear that and hope that we don't get any channel strikes or anything to the channel for that. I know that happens on Twitch and stream and things like that before. So, all right. Going back to the chat for a second. That's kind of want to make sure that we got, I've covered a few things. Scotty, good to see you. He's talking about Isaac Wilson over at Utah. He's shown flashes of brilliance. He's had flashes of brilliance. Honestly, I thought he played relatively well. Isaac Wilson was a starter, I thought, when they played Oklahoma State a few weeks ago. I guess that was almost a month ago. Helped them lead them to that win on the road against Oklahoma State, which isn't saying much now because the Cowboys aren't very good. But, he's got the thing with Utah and their quarterback situation is it's hard to develop a quarterback waiting in the wings when there's so much uncertainty. And genuinely, if Kyle Whittingham did for most of last year and for the last few weeks didn't always know the status of Cam Rising, it's hard to fully go all in on a quarterback, and it's hard to go all in on development when you still have a guy that you know is better waiting in the wings. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to have your backups always prepared, and the saying, you never know when your time's going to be called. You never know when you're going to be thrust into a real game situation. So you always have to be ready if you're a second string, third string guy. But obviously, getting reps with the first team, getting a lot of in-game experience, getting that full coaching and practice goes a long way. And Utah hasn't been able to fully commit to that because Cam Rising was always a week to week. He was a week to week practically all of last season. He's been week to week for the last month. And that's been what's been so frustrating about it. So I think Utah's got a lot of potential waiting in their wings at quarterback, whether it's with Wilson or somebody else. And keep in mind, this era of the transfer portal and NIL, they can go buy themselves a quarterback. I mean, just, sometimes for these guys, it's the highest bidder. So you never know. But I mean, we've seen so many teams do that already. So, if they don't have faith in Isaac Wilson, go get you somebody. Go into the portal, dip into the portal, and find somebody. That could absolutely happen. But they're going to be an interesting case to watch, not just for the rest of this year, but next year, especially if Rising doesn't come back for an eighth season of college football. Tommy Noller, who do I think is going to win Boston College, Virginia Tech? Two teams that are actually play very similar styles of ball, have very similar quarterback play. Where's that game being played? Is that Virginia Tech? If it's Virginia Tech, I'm probably going to go with Virginia Tech. I think it is. Let's see. Yeah, it's at Virginia Tech. I'm leaning Virginia Tech, and I like Boston College a lot. I like Bill O'Brien. I like what he's doing up at Chestnut Hill, but Hokies need a win desperately. It's already been a disappointing season enough for them, but they're 7.5-point favorites. I like them at home against Boston College because the Eagles, for me, are a little too inconsistent. You never know what you're going to get from BC. Is it going to be the Boston College team that we saw to start the year? Is it going to be the Boston College team that almost lost to Western Kentucky, who's playing pretty good ball right now against Sam Houston? Fun Conference USA matchup, leading by 3, although Sam Houston trying to tie it. Is it going to be the Boston College team that was up by 14 points? And then allowed 24 unanswered and lost by 10 to Virginia? I mean, there's so much kind of on the line. But Boston College is wildly inconsistent, and I'm gonna go with Virginia Tech. Thursday night at home in Blacksburg. Typically go with the Hokies. So yeah, great question there. Yeah, and I see all the comments now. We're about to open up the phone lines again. And it's kind of one of those things where I feel like it's school teachers like, I don't want people to lose their phone privileges. I don't want people to lose their call-in privileges at all. So from Dolmite, Gare Bear, all of you guys commenting about it, I will again sincerely apologize. Obviously not. I don't know. Obviously not what we stand for here at the channel. That's completely unacceptable. Obviously that type of language. We had a guy, I think, drop a couple F-bombs a few weeks ago, and that was unacceptable. So just any language of that kind, but especially that kind of word, not acceptable at all. And we do apologize for it. So we will make sure that we don't, that we block Michael's number who called in earlier. That number will be blocked. We will not be answering that call again. that number again. If we hear just that same sounding voice again, we will be hanging up and won't entertain that at all. So obviously that's the dangers of live productions. You never know what can happen. Crazy things can happen, but do apologize for that. Definitely apologize for that. And again, hopefully nothing happens on the YouTube side of things, because they're picky, man. You never know what can happen here. So if we go MIA for go AWOL for who knows how long, you'll know why. Hopefully it doesn't happen though. Hopefully not. All right, we're gonna open up the phone lines again. Take a few more calls tonight as we're a little over the hour mark. Try us again. I'd love to hear from some of you guys. 870-955-4797. Mark, though, says, any guidance on Sunbelt Billy? Honestly, if you're Sunbelt Billy, I say, Mark, take your buyout and leave, man. You know the old phrase, a fired head coach is the best job in the world, right? It's the best job in America, is being a fired head coach for a power program, especially because you get fired and you get that multi-million-dollar buyout check, and you're sitting pretty. So we're getting a call. Let's see if this one goes better. Let's see here.
To accept, press 1.
All right, you're on the Gridiron Expert. Who's with us?
Oh, this is Brady.
Hey, Brady, I know I can trust you. What's going on, man?
Hey, just wanted to call in. Sorry about that previous call, but just kind of want to chat. I don't know if you noticed, but of course, I'm being a Purdue and Notre Dame fan. Purdue obviously had a really huge opportunity to go take down a top 25 team, and just blew it. So I just kind of wanted to hear your kind of intake on that.
Yeah, no, that was a really, really crazy game. And I want to give a lot of credit to Purdue, honestly, to start, because they were a team that going into the Illinois game, I really kind of felt had given up. They, had just getting destroyed week in and week out. And it looked like it was going to be the same. They got down, 24 points to Illinois. It looked like it was going to be over. So give them a lot of credit for battling back and kind of waking up. And I think it was honestly a mixture of Purdue kind of waking up a little bit, but also a mixture of Illinois just maybe taking their foot off the gas, which is a common theme among Brett Bielema teams. He's done that everywhere he's been, whether it was Wisconsin, Arkansas, Illinois. They get up by a lot, they stop playing, and they nearly lose the game. So that's a rough way to lose. I don't blame Ryan Walters for going for the win at the end. Just trying to end it. You're on the road against a top 25 opponent. You battled back. It was a high-scoring game. Why not just try to get out of there? So I don't blame it. And the season was kind of a lost cause at that point anyway. You only had one win, so why not go big or go home? But I really, as heartbreaking as the loss would be, as a Purdue fan, I know for you, I think you can take a little bit of comfort in saying, hey, this team hasn't fully given up that. This team still wants to win. They're still capable of winning, and the fight has not completely gone out of them.
Yeah, it's a loss that really stings. Purdue was down by 24 at one point, and in the third quarter, I think. And of course, I'm glad that Boilers gave a lot of fight back. But they, of course, maybe it was just Illinois kind of sleepwalking through the last part of the game. Pretty onside kick. Purdue's offense with that backup quarterback, who I don't remember the name exactly of, but I think he is definitely should be their guy going forward. I think that it sucks that you couldn't get the win, but kind of have to put it a bit on Purdue's defense. You went for 2 to go by 3. You kind of guaranteed that the game would at the very worst go to overtime. Had a big sack. Got a lot of Illinois really seemed like they couldn't be moving the ball, and just Illinois kept finding a way to really exploit that Purdue secondary. So, I mean, maybe that's on their fault, but I mean, again, glad they fought back. Hopefully, this is a sign of better things to come because I'm really not expecting too much out of this season. But I think Purdue probably should give Ryan Walters a bit more time. I think that he has potential as a coach. He's a young guy. I think that he can build up a team. Of course, there's got to be consistency. Getting destroyed by Wisconsin on the road, getting destroyed by Notre Dame in a game that, of course, root for both teams, kind of an odd situation for me there. But, just if they can really respond to that pretty well, I think there's a few games that they could find a way to win. Maybe they beat Northwestern at home. Maybe they upset Michigan State on the road. I think probably IU is a lost cause on the road. But, I mean, the loss sucks, but I mean, just find some positive outcomes of that. I mean, it would have been really nice, having been a Purdue fan, that they could have pulled that off and kind of really caused a bit of chaos within the Big Ten. I thought that would have been really cool, but I mean, just it is what it is. Hopefully this is just a sign of better things to come. So we'll see what is going to continue going on in West Lafayette.
Yeah, no, I like what you said. I mean, with teams like this, and with with a new head coach like this and Ryan Walters, I know he's in his second year. It takes time. It takes patience. And so I like what you said. Give him a second year. I know this last year wasn't great. This year's off to a worse start, maybe worse than we expected. But what did Purdue fans expect? They knew it was going to be a rebuilding project. We know it's difficult and tough to win at Purdue. It's a very tough place to play, especially in the conference they're in. So I do think he needs a little bit more time. He's a young coach. He's a great defensive mind. I think he's going to do very well there if they're patient enough with him. But like you said, I think now the season kind of feels like a lost cause. They're probably not going to go bowling or anything like that. But getting a couple wins and still remaining competitive, that's the key, right? That's how you carry momentum into next season, and that's how you build going into next season, is by winning a few games at the end, getting a few conference wins especially, and riding that high into next season. That's really what they need to focus on.
Yeah, I mean, just worth being a Purdue fan, just get ready for basketball year. Hopefully, even without Zach Edey, I think we should. I have some high hopes. I think that we can compete in a relatively wide open Big Ten. But anyways, just give them more time. Yeah, I think it'll be tough just because of how competitive the Big Ten is and how likely that's going to continue in years to come. Obviously, Purdue doesn't recruit at that high of a level, but they've got some decent players here and then. So we'll see what the future has to hold. Hopefully, just give it time. Hopefully, Purdue kind of get back to where Jeff Brom had them at the end of his tenure.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the key, right? Brom was the success he had there was kind of unprecedented. I mean, making a Big Ten championship game was unbelievable for Purdue. So yeah, that's what Purdue deserves, is that kind of success. And I think Walters can get there, but it wasn't built in a day. It's hard to build a program in a day. So, time is key. Patience is key, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that'll be all for tonight. So just hope you have a good rest of the stream. Of course, apologize about that one caller. Just take care. God bless.
Hey, Brady, I appreciate you, man. Not your fault at all, but we appreciate you and all your support, my guy.
All right, no problem. Take care.
All right, thank you, Brady. I appreciate that call, man. That was a good call. Love talking some Purdue football, man. I want them to do well there. I remember, when I first got into football, 8, 9 years old was when I really got into it. Purdue was garbage. You kind of always thought of them as a bottom feeder in college football and the Big Ten. And it was so nice to see them doing well under Jeff Brom. And I think they're going to get back. I really do believe they're going to get back to that. I believe that. Let's get Scott on the line. Let's get him. All right, we've got Scotty B, the Baylor King. What's going on, Scott?
I'm doing good. I'm just a little nervous for Saturday because I just think that they need to find a way to win this game if possible. Do you see this game as more of a must-win when compared to Oklahoma State game as homecoming the following week?
Yeah, I would say it probably is, Scotty, because I mean, you're looking at a Baylor team that's disappointing again, 2-4. I will say the beauty of this is Oklahoma State, as you mentioned, homecoming. That's very, very winnable. TCU after that, very, very winnable, and Houston is very winnable. So, like the ultimate goal, and you and I have kind of discussed this, is to get to a bowl game. The back half of the schedule is shaping up to be really favorable to the point where Baylor could string together wins and get there. But beating Texas Tech on the road would be, I think, that kind of give you that cushion to where you pretty much don't have to just win out the rest of the way, or you have a little bit more of a cushion, a little more leeway for error. It might give this team a lot of confidence heading into their final stretch. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I view it as a must-win. Granted, the season's not over if they don't win it. But I would see it as a must-win. And the thing is, that this very well, Scott, the history between Baylor and Texas Tech. Baylor typically fares very well in this series. So even though the Red Raiders are undefeated in conference play, playing very well, the Bears are not afraid of Lubbock at all.
That is very true, and they need the confidence, especially after 2 excruciating losses out of 3 against Colorado and BYU. BYU just started way too slow, and they cannot start slow against Texas Tech. I tell you that right now.
Yeah, no.
They will score on you.
Yeah, the Red Raiders have a fantastic, fantastic offense. And that Colorado loss, I mean, still stings for me, man. I'm telling you. I mean, Baylor had that game in the bag. And you can't help but wonder, I mean, 3-3 right now. You beat Colorado and you're sitting at 3-3. Things are looking a lot better and would be looking really, really good if you were to beat Texas Tech. So that's a loss that I was concerned kind of demoralized Baylor a little bit. I'd say the last 2 weeks it has. So Aranda's got to find a way to rally his troops, basically say, guys, yeah, 2-4 is not ideal. This season's still far from over. Our goals are still very much in front of us, but they might not be for long if we lose in Lubbock.
Exactly, and if they do lose against Oklahoma State the following week, I would say forget the bowl game idea now, and then maybe Aranda gets fired at the very end. Nothing will shock me at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, obviously, if you lose the next 2 games, that would require Baylor to win out their final 4 games. And granted, they're winnable. TCU, West Virginia, Houston, and Kansas. Only one of those teams, or 2 of them, I guess, at 500 or better, which would be TCU and West Virginia, but both are winnable. But obviously, you don't want to be put in a position where you have to win every single game. And I agree. If Baylor fails to make a bowl game, I think Aranda's out, which is really hard to believe considering how well his tenure started.
I agree. It's just, whatever reason, it just hasn't worked. I mean, the last conference home win, and I'm going to stop after I mention this fact, they haven't beat a conference opponent at home since Kansas game in 2022 and October 22nd at that.
Wow.
So y'all know about that fact, and it's a bad one. And luckily they got that, like, an FBS opponent win at home finally this year. It's just, they got to be a conference opponent at home and bring the fans back to the stands.
Yeah.
So y'all know, and have a great night, y'all. I'll be listening.
Hey, appreciate you, Scott. Thank you, man.
No problem.
All right. Love Scotty B, man. Scotty's been here. I think he literally commented on, like, one of my first videos was, we did predictions and Baylor got on there and he commented and it just took off from there. So, Scotty, we appreciate you and your Baylor insight and everything you bring to the channel, man. And I appreciate the call. Love the call. Great stuff. All right, we're getting another call. Let's get him. Oh, we just missed it. Just missed it. So here we go. Now we're getting a call. I think this is Alex. Let's get him on here.
Alex TV.
There we go. That's what we like to hear. Now the phone line's picking up. What's going on, Alex?
How's it going?
Doing good, man. Doing good. How are you?
Good. Do you think Michigan State stands a chance against Iowa?
I think that's an interesting game, Alex. I like that Michigan State gets that game at home. That's massive. I'm worried about their offense. Their offense is so bad, and they're playing one of the best defenses in the Big Ten in Iowa. This to me has the makings of being a pretty low scoring game. Neither team may be exceeding 21 points. But the question is, you've seen Michigan State, and granted, they're two of the better teams in the Big Ten, but they struggled to move the ball against Ohio State. They struggled to move the ball against Oregon. Can they do it now against maybe a better defense than some of those teams in Iowa? So I'm picking Iowa to win that game, but I do think it'll be a relatively close, low-scoring game.
Talk about Ohio State, Oregon.
Well, that was a game that for all of you listening, I think we need to really take a step back and reflect on how lucky we are as college football fans. This Saturday marks the third? Yeah, the third top 5 matchup in 4 weeks, and we are only on the third Saturday of October. The Alabama-Georgia game lived up to the hype. The Ohio State-Oregon game lived up to the hype. And this Saturday, we can only hope that Georgia and Texas will live up to the hype. That Ohio State-Oregon game was unbelievable. What I loved most about that game was the fact that we saw both teams kind of wake up. They were both undefeated. They were both playing good ball heading into the game. We get that. But it kind of felt that Ohio State and Oregon, for like the whole first month and a half of the season, were holding things back in preparation for this game in particular. Ohio State was starting horribly slow in every game they played. Well, they didn't start slow when they came to Oregon. Oregon's offense looked kind of, just pedestrian, weren't taking many deep shots, weren't looking explosive like we thought they were going to be. Well, then all of a sudden against Ohio State, they start taking deep shot after deep shot after deep shot, and Dylan Gabriel played a dang near flawless game. So that was, so refreshing to see these two teams that we knew were good, but just felt like there was something missing, play to their full potential in one of the games of the year. And it is going to go down as one of the games of the year. So just very, very, very refreshing to see such a great game. Heartbreaking way to lose if you're Ohio State, especially not getting a kickoff, not getting a shot to the end zone, sliding as time expires, 35 yards away from the end zone. That's just heartbreaking. But I loved that game. That'll go down as one of my top games of the year by far.
It's weird that Dylan Gamble can throw 2 picks against us and throw none against Ohio State.
What was that?
It's weird that Dylan Gamble can throw 2 picks against us but none against Ohio State.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. And they Michigan State, give their defense credit, because Oregon would have won that game by a lot more. Those interceptions came deep in the red zone, and it just didn't happen. Michigan State was able to pick them off. So that's the beauty of football, Alex. You just never know, man. One week a team looks bad, the next week they look great. That's just the beauty of the game.
And last question: do you think the loser of Alabama Tennessee is out of the playoffs?
Probably, yes. Just because of how difficult the schedule is for both of them going forward, I would say yes. Alabama would still have to play LSU. Auburn, despite them not being good, is always a tricky game. They've still got to play Missouri. Tennessee would still have to play Georgia. They still got to play apparently a pretty good Vanderbilt team. So it definitely is looking like the loser. The loser isn't officially out, but I think inevitably they're going to be put out because one of them, they're going to lose again. That's the thing. So yes, I would say so.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Alex. Appreciate the call. All right. That's our man, Alex TV. Appreciate the call, my guy. Appreciate we know what I like about the channel, man. We got so many resident fans. We have Carter was a Utah fan, Alex is Michigan State, and Brady's Purdue, and a little bit of Notre Dame, and Scotty is a Baylor fan, and we've got such a diverse group of people and such a diverse group of fan base, and you guys bring so much knowledge from your own team to the channel, which I love, which I absolutely love. So it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. So Alex, appreciate the call. Scotty, again, appreciate your call. Good to see everybody else that's here on the stream right now. whether you're watching later or whether you're watching live, but I know we saw Cooperative Gamer is here. Good to see you. Walter Mackey is here. Nice to have you here. It's always at work when we're live. What time do you work, Walter? Because maybe we can tweak the time a few times this year. Because I will say this, we're doing a really good job of doing these live streams on Wednesday nights, and we're going to continue that, right? But I will say that in November, we may change the day and time because we want to be able to do these live streams live with you when the playoff rankings come out. And typically, the playoff rankings come out, live on TV on Tuesday nights. And so we want to be able to do that with you guys, kind of see our live reaction, get your live reactions, breaking it down with you live. So we, of course, will give you updates on that. We'll put a post out on YouTube, kind of explaining that posting schedule and that live schedule. But maybe then we'll be able to do something. Maybe then we'll be able to get you on early, Walter, and have you ready to go. So we appreciate all of you and appreciate that. Paul Townstein says he loves the community. I think Paul was in cahoots with Michael, I think. That's what the vibe I was getting. Could be wrong. That was the vibe I was getting. And so is Dolomite, I think, as well. So we're getting a lot of calls, I think, from these guys trying to spam the stream a little bit, which we'll just try to block them, man. I'm telling you. We've been blocking them, but I don't know if it's gonna work. Guys are finding a new way. Might have to get a new number, a fake number, maybe. And find a way to block these guys. Crazy, man. Crazy. But let's see. Is Cole? Let's see.
To accept, press 1.
What's going on, Cole?
Hey there, I'm doing pretty well. How you doing?
Doing good. Appreciate the call.
Yes, sir. You got it. So I got a couple things I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
First thing, I went to Appalachian State for a couple years, and my mom's side of the family is State fans. NC State. That side of my family is UNC fans. So I now go into State. Do you have anything positive you can say about the future of those two programs, or do you think any of them got to take like a bowl game this year? Because I was happy going into the season. It's not as happy, a few weeks into it. What do you think?
So I caught the first. You said App State and who?
I got App State, UNC, and NC State.
I got you. Oh, I got all North Carolina schools. Nice.
Yeah, everything but Duke, man. Can't stand Blue Devils.
Everything but Duke. All right, I respect that. Let's see here, man. App State is one of, and really for, ironically, man, all three of those teams kind of came in, and this came into the year with high expectations and have really failed. Honestly, App State and NC State have been the two biggest surprises to me in terms of how disappointing they've looked. App State's a perennial contender. I really thought their offense was going to be much better than it is. You got Joey Aguilar coming back, always a very solid run game, and they've been non-existent. It's really maybe not so much on their offense, more so on their defense. I mean, they're getting torched by everybody. 66 to Clemson, 48 to South Alabama, 52 to Marshall. I mean, some unacceptable losses here for a team that's supposed to be a perennial, Sun Belt title contender. So there isn't much positive to say. I mean, the offense, I think, can hang with some people. But it makes you kind of wonder what happened with the Mountaineers from a team that was very good last year to one that had just completely fallen off. NC State, I'm going to tell you right now from NC State, I don't mean to bash your school or your family school. They were a team that I was high on coming into the year. I thought this could be the breakout year for them. But it was evident to me because everybody's going to point fingers at NC State and say, oh, well, because Grayson McCall has been hurt and unhealthy, we struggle. It's not true. That's a big blow to the team. But it was evident this team was going to be bad when they couldn't put away Western Carolina in week 1. When they struggled into the fourth quarter against a team they were over 30-point favorites against, and NC State was supposed to be this team that had an electric offense and a great quarterback and one of the best defenses of the Dave Doeren era, it was evident this was not going to be the team that we thought they were. Then they get crushed against Tennessee, and then it all falls apart from there. And then North Carolina, I fully believe North Carolina would be in a different spot right now. It's kind of the opposite of NC State. They'd be in a different spot right now if Max Johnson doesn't get hurt. If Max Johnson doesn't get hurt and kind of demoralize this team and kind of send shockwaves to this team, I'm not saying they're ACC title contenders, but they are in a much better spot than where they are right now.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. NC State's been super smart that I'm going here right now. And even when Grayson was playing, it wasn't what I wanted it to be. This defense without Peyton Wilson has been kind of atrocious, especially compared to last year. And the offense just hasn't lived up to expectations. People are talking about Dave Doran possibly getting fired, and I don't know that I want him fired yet. It seems kind of premature since he's been 8+ wins, every year since he's been here. It seems like last 5 years or so. But there's a whole lot of downhill this year, it seems like.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's wild to think that in that state of North Carolina that Duke, and I know you're against them, that Duke is the best team in the state right now. I mean, I definitely wouldn't have pegged that.
Yeah, definitely not. Another thing was I'm sitting here watching St. Houston State play Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if you guys ever contemplated doing videos for these midweek games like MAC, Sunbelt, Conference USA. I don't know if people don't do videos on this stuff because it's less confident because the talent's not as high. But I figured you probably get views on it. I don't know if you ever thought about doing that before or not.
No, it's a great question. On it, so we actually discussed this game, Western Kentucky and Sam Houston, in our Week 8 predict. It wasn't a solely dedicated video to that game, but we did discuss it in our Week 8 predictions video, which came out yesterday. And it is something that we've contemplated, because maybe taking one or two of the biggest midweek games. Some of them aren't worth talking about. You take an Akron and a Kent State. No one cares about Akron and Kent State. But a game like this that has major Conference USA title implications, it might be worth talking about individually. So definitely something that we will look into the future for sure.
Got you. All right. And last thing I wanted to know, I haven't watched nearly any Cincinnati games this season, and I have watched a bunch of Arizona State games. They've been very shocking with that young coach. They've been a whole lot better than I expected them to be. But I just heard that the quarterback got injured recently. How do you feel about the Cincy game? Spreads, money lines, anything like that? Because I haven't really been paying attention to them, but without, I think it's Levitt as their quarterback.
Yeah.
Do you think Arizona State stands a chance, or do you think Cincy's gonna blow them out? What do you think?
I definitely wouldn't say Cincy's going to blow them out. Cincinnati's such an inconsistent team. They're looking better right now than they did last year for sure. They definitely improved, but that's the scary thing with Cincinnati, at least right now under Scott Satterfield. You never know which team's going to show up. But Arizona State, to their credit, has been a very surprising. I'm pulling up their schedule right now. It's been a very surprising team. They deserve the praise they're getting. It really hasn't been more of the Sam Levitt show. He's been solid, but his stats aren't eye-popping. It's been Scatterboo. It's been their running back that's been the key for them. So honestly, I think Cincinnati wins the game solely because I think Satterfield sells out on the run, forces the backup quarterback, which is supposed to be Jeff Sims, the former Georgia Tech and Nebraska quarterback. He's supposed to be the guy coming in. He's a turnover machine. So I'm fully expecting Cincinnati to win this thing.
Got you. All right, that sounds good. Well, I just wanted to call for a little bit, ask a couple things. I've been watching for a little over a year, and I want to say I've been a pick'em group with my dad and some college friends over bowl season last year, and I won that group because of a whole lot of your picks. So I just want to say I made some money off you doing that. I appreciate you making these videos. I watch all of them.
Dude, that's fantastic to hear. That's what we like to hear, man. I appreciate you and the support, and I'm glad to have you on the team and glad to have you call in, man. Feel free to call in anytime.
Yes, sir. You got it. You have a good night now.
Hey, you too, Cole. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
All right, how about that? I think that was a first-time caller. In Cole, and we appreciate that call. And I don't know if you heard that now. Did you hear that? He said he won a lot of money in his bowl pick'em with our picks. Now, not the expert picks, but off the videos. Take what we put in the videos, and you take what we give you to the expert picks that are beating out over 80% of the handicappers, you're going to win some money. You're going to win your pick'ems. That's why we offer our holiday special too. And when late November rolls around, we offer you a holiday special with every single one of our bowl game picks. We hook you up, man. We hook you up. So I'm glad Cole was able to take advantage of it. I know a couple of other you guys have taken advantage of that and have won through that, and it's always very encouraging for us to hear. We're always really excited to hear about that. Excited to hear how well you guys do in the bowl pick'ems or the ESPN pick'ems, whatever you may do. So Cole, we appreciate you, appreciate your support, appreciate you calling in, and everything else. We hope to hear more from you later on. We will close the phone lines tonight. I saw my man Nick. Nick, we're gonna close the phone lines. Got a lot I want to address in the chat, and I told everybody we kind of had to cut this one off just a little bit earlier. Make the stream a tiny bit earlier than usual. So we're gonna leave it at that. But Nick, give us a call next week, my guy. Next week we'll have a lot to discuss. You and I can discuss whatever happens between Georgia and Texas. I know you'll have a lot to say about that. So I'm looking forward to discussing that with you, Nick. So I apologize for that, but I want to make sure I get to the chat before we wrap things up tonight. But definitely hit me up. Definitely hit us up. But the phone lines will be closed for now, or I guess for the rest of the night, I should say. Let's go to the chat and wrap up there. Let's see here. Trying to make sure I don't miss any comments here. Christian, good to see you. Christian, a resident Louisville fan. So, we talk about a lot of guys that come to our channel and are on our kind of, honestly, what we could do is we just need to maybe make branches of the Gridiron Expert. Let's branch out and have like different subdivisions of this channel. We got Christian running Louisville. We got Scott running Baylor. We got Brady running like Purdue and Notre Dame. And then let's just have like, multiple channels, part of a GE network. Maybe that'd be pretty cool. Let me look into that. Am I worried about Louisville for the rest of the season? If they beat Miami, will it change their perception? It will help their perception. I mean, if you beat a top 10 team, it's obviously going to do a lot of wonders for you. But I am worried about Louisville, Christian. If I'm being honest with you, they didn't look good against Notre Dame. Then they lose at home to SMU as about a touchdown favorite, which is a pretty shocking upset. And then they probably should have lost to Virginia last week. They had to score a touchdown with less than 2 minutes left to win that game against the Cavaliers. So I would say I am a little worried about Louisville for the rest of the season. Now, this Miami game has trap game written all over it. That's the scary thing. This Miami game, it was a thriller last year down in Miami. Louisville ended up, I think, winning that game, right? It was like 38-31. And now they host Miami, a team that has been very fortunate to win their last two games against Virginia Tech and California. We know Louisville's a different animal at home. Anything can happen there. So I don't know. But if they lose that game, Christian, they're going to be, 4-3? So they're going to take their third loss. That's what, as many losses or almost, were they go 10-4 last year? Yeah, they were 10-2 and then lost their last two games. So 10-4. So you almost matched last year's loss total in the third Saturday of October. I mean, that's a bad look. And the schedule obviously not going to get too much easier. You still have some difficult games down the stretch that they can end up losing. And honestly, it's already been a disappointing season for Louisville as it is. I don't think many people thought they'd beat Notre Dame, but I think a lot of people thought they'd beat SMU. So I think people expect them to be at least 5-1 at this point. And it's also not just necessarily the fact that they are losing these games, whatever it may be, but it's how they're looking. It's how they looked against Virginia. It's how they looked in their other games. I think it's the concern for me for Louisville. It's like, what's going on? The defense isn't playing as well as I thought they'd play. The home field advantage hasn't been as dominant as it was a year before. Remember, last year they were beating teams by an average of over 20 points per game at home. Not as much on the road, but home was like so tough to play. This year they're winning some, but not by as much. Beat Georgia Tech by 12, lost to SMU. So yeah, I think it changed their perception a little bit. It keeps them in the hunt for an ACC title because they'd be 5-2, and only one of those losses would be in conference play. The other, of course, Notre Dame. So it keeps their chances alive to get into the ACC championship and would create chaos in the ACC because then Miami would have a loss, and now Clemson would be the lone undefeated team in the conference, at least in conference play. So it would create chaos, but I don't know if it would fully change my perception. If that makes sense. But Christian, we appreciate you in the comment, man. What's up, Sam? What's going on, Sam? Good to see you, man. I need to reach out. Been too long. It has been way too long since we've talked. So good to see you on the stream, man. Definitely need to talk more and get with you. I'm anxious to get your thoughts on the Dogs this Saturday. Your team taking on Texas kind of feels like a must win. I mean, it's would be crazy to see Georgia possibly with two losses midway through October. I mean, that would just be unheard of. And granted, this is a great year for the 12-team playoff to have happened, because if this was a normal 14 playoff year, Georgia would practically be eliminated from the playoff if this were to happen. And again, we're not saying that it's a done deal. They could win this game against Texas, but I'm not liking their odds. Hate to say it, not liking their odds. Corey. First off, Corey, love the profile pick, man. That's one of the biggest Heisman snubs in history. D-Mac getting the runner-up twice and not having a Heisman trophy is just, it really just shows how bad the Heisman voters are. I've always said they've been atrocious. I've always hated the process. And that just kind of, once again, solidifies my thoughts on that. Do I give Arkansas a chance against LSU? Yeah, not only do I give them a chance, I think Arkansas is going to win. I think Arkansas is going to beat LSU on Saturday. I predicted that yesterday. It's on the channel. Look it up. We're not just talking out of our butt here. We put it out there for all to see, and we're going to own up to it if it happens. We're going to own up to it if it doesn't happen. But I like Arkansas in this game. At home, at night, a red out. This fan base is reinvigorated. They're excited. They're coming off a week of rest. Right before that, they upset number 4 Tennessee at home, at night. So that home field advantage, which I didn't really think there was much of one, really hasn't been much of one over the last few years, is going to be playing a role in this game now against LSU. The last 4 meetings between Arkansas and LSU have been decided by a field goal. 4 straight meetings, all decided by a field goal between Arkansas and LSU. I would expect nothing different this year. Another close competitive game per usual. Sam Pittman, if you don't include the 2020 COVID year, which I don't really think you can too much, is a perfect 3-0 coming out of a bye week. The only concern I have for Arkansas is Taylon Green. I don't think he's going to play. I think Pittman is doing coach talk. If you've listened to Pittman this week, you're hearing him say, yeah, he's still a little banged up, but he's going through practice. He's doing pretty good, and we feel pretty confident he's going to play. And I fully expect at around 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon to get an alert on my phone that says Taylon Green is out and Malachi Singleton will start for Arkansas. And then it puts a wrinkle in things. I think, and I know the SEC is going to put out their injury reports, but as we talked about in the previous live stream, you can go onto your injury report and say Taylon Green's questionable. You don't have to say he's out. You just got to say he's questionable. When inside, he ain't playing. But we're going to say he's questionable to appease the SEC, but we all know he's not playing, right? That's what I think is going to happen. And that's where Arkansas is going to be up a creek. Is Malachi Singleton ready? Has he spent the last 2 weeks with the first-team offense, learning under Bobby Petrino? There's a lot in the Razorback program that believe that Singleton is a better passer than Taylon Green, that he can throw the ball better than Taylon Green. Can't run it as well, but he can throw it better. If that's the case, can he deliver against his LSU secondary? Can JaQuinton Jackson get going against his LSU front seven? Can Arkansas's defense has been playing so well all year turn in another good performance against the LSU offense that averages over 300 yards per game? So many things that are going to play a factor here, but regardless, yeah, they've got a great chance. And even if Arkansas were to lose this game, they're not going to get blown out. I feel confident in that. It will be close. And if Arkansas wins this game, they're 5-2. They should beat Mississippi State the next week. They're 6-2, and they're going to enter the month of November, not just, as a potential dark horse for the playoff, but they're going to enter the month of November if they can win those 2 games with 1 conference loss. Meaning in the final month of the season with 2 massive conference games at home against Ole Miss and Texas, Razorbacks would be in SEC title contention. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? And I'm getting ahead of myself. They got to beat LSU first, but I think they're going to do it. I do think they're going to do it. Feel confident in that. Let's see here. Mark says that Miami will crush the Cardinals. They're going to crush the Cardinals. I don't know, man. It's a tough decision. Are they going to crush? I don't know if they're going to crush them, or it's kind of one of those things where it's like it's either going to be a blowout and for Miami, or is it going to be a game that comes down to the final seconds, right? Like it's not going to be a blowout for Louisville. It's not going to be like a 10-point win for Louisville. It's either going to be a blowout win for Miami or a back and forth game, kind of like we saw last year, that 38-31 caliber game that we saw down in Miami. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this game. But the Hurricanes off that week of rest. Going to be pretty massive here. They're well rested. Miami isn't getting a bad rap. We know how good of a team they are. The concern for Miami, if you go back and look at their games against Virginia Tech and California, what's been their issue? It's been turnovers and penalties. They've been penalized like 9 times over the last 2 games for over 100 yards. Cam Ward threw 2 big interceptions against Virginia Tech deep in the red zone. If they score those, that game doesn't end in controversial fashion. He threw a pick 6 against California. If he doesn't throw that, Miami wins by at least by a full possession. Maybe change the outcome of the game. I don't know. But bottom line is, if they cut down on the mistakes, and I believe he will, Miami's going to be just fine. Go watch the first 4 or 5 games of the year, games against Florida and South Florida and teams like that. They weren't really making that many mistakes. They were doing a very good care of the football. They were playing disciplined football, and they were blowing these teams out of the water. If they can get back to that clean style, they're fine. They're gold. That's kind of my take. So, Mark, I appreciate you. Excited to see your team in action, man. It's going to be a fun early morning game on Saturday. Very much so. A lot of people taking Arkansas. Alex is taking Arkansas. Cooperative Gamer taking Arkansas. Scotty says they think they make a bowl game at least. Maybe not beating LSU, who knows, but at least makes a bowl game to save Pittman's job, and that would do the trick. If Arkansas can win 6 games, they will go bowling. And I will say this, Arkansas pretty much has 5 games in the bag at this point. They got 4 wins right now. They should beat Louisiana. They will beat Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech looked horrible last night against New Mexico State. I know if New Mexico Noah was here, he would be ecstatic. I'd love to get his take on the environment last night, but that's 5 wins. So Arkansas literally just has to win 1 more game this season to go bowling. 1 more conference game, I should say. And the majority of those are at home. They've got LSU at home, Ole Miss at home, Texas at home, and then they have at Mississippi State, very winnable, and at Missouri, who looks winnable as well. So the Razorback schedule is pretty favorable down the stretch, with the exception of a home game off a bye week against Texas. All the more reason that if the Hogs can play up to their potential, they could be a sneaky SEC title / playoff team in the month of November. That sounds ridiculous, but it is very, very possible. It is very, very possible. No doubt about it. Let's see here. Sam's got Arkansas as well, too. I love that. I don't know if I should be nervous that everybody's taking Arkansas or happy that everybody's taking Arkansas. I don't know. Last few questions tonight. Cole from the call. What do I think about conferences in 2028? You heard about the set? Yeah, I have, and I didn't. I think the sport is going in a wrong direction, and I have ranted about this in the past. I've talked about this in the past. I don't think, and I could be wrong. Maybe I'm speaking for myself and not others, but I don't think your average college football fan, I don't think the majority of the college football fans want to see this happen. I don't think people want to see this like upper division of college football where it's essentially the SEC and the Big Ten versus everybody else. Like that's the teams competing for the national title. Like we've already got the FBS and the FCS, and that's fine. I think that's necessary. But I don't think you need to have like FBS level 1 and then FBS level 2, level 3, then FC. You know what I'm saying? And each one has their different playoff or their different national title or their different bowl games. And yeah, they can play each other, but they don't mean, it's the conference realignment is not done. If you thought we were done with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma and all the stuff that's happening in the Big 12 and all the stuff that's happening now and trying to reform the Pac-12, if you thought that was it, you're wrong. It is far from over. It is far from over. And if this deal ever gets made where we have almost a premier league like they do for soccer over in Europe for college football, I think the sport's dead. And it's already going in the wrong direction with NIL. We saw what happened at UNLV. We're seeing what's happening now with players across the country quitting on their teams mid-season because, they're not getting paid enough, or, I'm not getting enough playing time, so I'm going to quit on my team in week 3 or week 4 to ensure I get that red shirt and don't lose a year of eligibility. The mindsets of the players have changed. The rules and regulations among the sport have changed. And because the NCAA screwed up in not putting regulations at the beginning with NIL and everything, and paying players, it's kind of taken off in the wrong direction, a significantly wrong direction. So I am worried about it. I am concerned about it. I have heard about the 70-team conference idea. I think that would be terrible for college football. I think it would be a bad move for college football. But the problem is they don't care what we think, right? Like the SEC doesn't care, ESPN doesn't care, the Big Ten doesn't care. Like these really rich corporations, because essentially that's what these conferences are. They're essentially corporations, right? Like they get a lot of money from TV media rights deals and from the fan bases and from the, they cut these schools a share from their profits that they're making from everything else. They get more money when their teams go to higher level bowl games and when more players do this and more that's what happens. It's essentially a corporation. So you've got about 9 to 10 corporations across college football right now. Those, of course, being the conferences. And you have like your White House, your president, which is the NCAA, and they're about as corrupt as any government would be, of course. And that's kind of what we're dealing with. So I don't know what conferences are going to look like in 2028, but I do think the ACC is going to fall apart pretty soon. I think Florida State's slowly on their way out. I think Clemson's on their way out. And they've both kind of shared their anger and frustrations towards the conference, and they want to join, whether it's the SEC or they start a new conference on their own and bring people in. I think Notre Dame, despite their best efforts, will join a conference soon. I think Notre Dame will be logically would be in the Big Ten, but probably would join the ACC because that's, of course, what the Fighting Irish did for basketball and all of their other sports. And that would be a good replenish, like one big brand for another. So if the ACC lost Clemson and Florida State or lost one of them and they were able to bring Notre Dame in, that replaces them. It replaces one big brand with another big brand. Notre Dame, of course, would be losing a lot of money if they did that as an independent. They're making up as it is with their deals with NBC and Peacock. But I'm rambling. Bottom line, Cole, is this is just the beginning. It's already crazy enough as it is, and it's just the beginning. And if they do go to that 70-team conference idea, or if they do go to that Premier League style of college football, look, I'm still going to watch it. I know you're probably still going to watch it. We're all still going to watch it and get invested, and we're going to get used to the new rules and get used to the new regulations. But it's going to be nowhere near as fun and nowhere near as what it should be, which, again, was an amateur sport. It was supposed to be a fun, amateur-level sport. It's college football. It's amateurs. And now it is essentially pros. And now it is essentially professional. And that's not what was ever meant to be. Ever meant to be. Great question, though. I could ramble about that for a very, very, very long time. That is a very, very good question. And I always see Cooperative Gamer talking about guys kind of moving around. What about he thinks football teams can be wiped out. Like, people just and that's a possibility. That's a possibility. Like, if these smaller schools that don't have the budget to keep up with the changing, they might have to quit. Like, look, guys, why are we still playing football every year if we're consistently losing and we know we're never going to have the funds to compete in this level of football? So let's just disband. That saves us money long term and saves us maybe embarrassment long term. I don't know. But that's a very good possibility. So he's mentioning teams like Hawaii, USF, Memphis. I don't know. I don't think those teams specifically would disband. I think they've got a big enough budget. But we saw what happened to UAB many years ago. UAB disbanded, brought it back, but they got rid of it. I see y'all talking about Sam Houston's quarterback getting hurt. He fumbled the ball there. Yeah, Western Kentucky look like they're going to get away with this thing. I know Sam Houston was a favorite in this game. I picked Sam Houston to win on the money line. They were not one of our expert picks. They were not one of our expert picks for the week, but I did think they'd win this game over Western Kentucky. Big win for the Hilltoppers so they can close this out over the final 10 minutes. Last few things I want to touch on real quick. Let's see here. Last two questions. I like what I got here. I like someone said North Dakota State should join. Yeah, they should. They should join FBS. I agree with that. Where was it? I liked it. Cole, will Iowa State go undefeated? No, they're losing somewhere. I don't know where, but they're going to lose somewhere. It's so hard to go undefeated. They're due for a bad game at some point. I don't know where it's going to be. It could be Utah on the road. I know they don't have Cam Rising anymore, but that's still a very difficult place to play, especially late in the year. So maybe it's Utah. Maybe it's Kansas State. That's going to be a massive game in the season finale. Great defensive battle. Kansas State's running game Against that Iowa State defense, going to be a lot of fun to watch. I would love to see them go undefeated, genuinely, but they're going to slip up somewhere. I don't know where, but it's bound to happen. But 6-0 start. Look, here, bottom line, Cole's this. They don't go undefeated. They're 11-1. They're still going to the Big 12 championship game. And you win that, you're in the playoff. And even if you don't win that, you're 11-1, lose the Big 12 championship game, you're 11-2. Odds are they're still getting in. Might not get to host a first-round game, but they're still getting in. So as great as an undefeated season would be, like, you can afford a loss and still make the college football playoff, at least in my eyes. I do believe that. So, but yeah, I'm pumped for you guys. I know you and Mitch, you guys are blowing my phone up on Twitter, and I love it. I'm pumped for you guys. I'm pumped to see Iowa State playing so well. I'm a huge fan of Matt Campbell. Love the style of football they play there. Love Ames, to me, one of the most underrated environments in all of college football. So it's so good to see them playing so well. And I really do think I really do think they are probably as of right now, and even based on our rankings, the best team in the Big 12. Their offense isn't insanely flashy, but it is efficient. Their defense is one of the best, not just in the Big 12, but in the country. They're pretty unbelievable. I'm excited to see them play Kansas State in the finale. They avoid BYU, which is massive. How awesome would that be? Can you imagine that Big 12 championship winner goes to the playoff as either Iowa State or BYU? Talk about parity, man. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see. Iowa State, BYU, winners of the playoff in the Big 12 championship game. First year without Oklahoma and Texas, and the conference just falls apart. That would be awesome. Absolutely awesome. And final question here, or comment, I should say. Tim Watts. Good to see you, Tim. Happy to have you, man. Genty is the clear Heisman winner, right? No doubt about it. Tim, you probably weren't here earlier, and that's okay, but we talked about that. I said, look, you might as well just give him the Heisman now. Unless he were to get hurt, or unless he were to just go on a really, really big cold streak, he needs to be invited to New York, and you might as well not do the whole 3-hour BS ceremony. Just give him the Heisman. This is what we're seeing from Genty is generational. What's he got, like 95 carries, less than 100 carries, right? For over 1,000 yards. And now you got me wanting to pull up the stats. And I think it's an appropriate way to close the show because I freaking love Ashton Genty. So I think it's an appropriate way to end with a little bit of enthusiasm. God, where is he? Got to find all the stats now. Boise is 5-1, the front runner to make the college football playoff. Genty now has 126 carries for 1,273 yards. I'm sorry, 1,248 yards and 17 touchdowns. And they have played, 6 games? 5-1? They've played half their season. In half a season, he has rushed for over 1,200 yards and 17 touchdowns. That is a full season for the majority of the running backs across the country. And here's the thing. I don't want to hear the argument that Boise doesn't play anybody. Yeah, their schedule is relatively weak, but he torched Oregon when they played Oregon, and Oregon is now the number 2 team in the country. Probably should have won that game. He torched Washington State, who is a power opponent in a way. Torched Hawaii, who has someone mentioned. Hawaii is not great, but has a solid defense to an extent. If he torches UNLV, who is their biggest threat in the Mountain West this year, that's another decent, good team on their resume. And even if they lose to UNLV and he puts up 200 yards, that's all right. And then San Diego State, Nevada, who's playing much better ball than we expected. San Jose State playing much better ball than we expected. And they end the year against Oregon State. And, man, I know he's licking his chops because Oregon State has a horrendous rushing defense. Senior day at home. We know that's going to be his last game in a Broncos uniform. He'll go off in that game, especially if Boise's still in the hunt for a college football playoff spot. And honestly, guys, Boise State right now sits at number 15 in the country. I know the rankings can change when the playoff committee releases their set of rankings. Theirs always looks drastically different from the AP poll. But with the chaos that's going to happen ahead of Boise State, we know Georgia or Texas is going to lose. We know Alabama or Tennessee is going to lose. And so many teams ahead of them that could possibly lose, not just this week, but over the next few weeks. Boise could find themselves sitting in the top 10, once again showing that do not relegate Boise State to that 12th seed. If Boise ends up making the playoff, don't just assume they're going to end up being the 12th seed. This is a team that could challenge for a first-round bye. This is a team that could challenge for a first-round home game, on-campus playoff game at Boise State on the Smurf turf. Are you kidding me? Hosting what would more than likely be a power opponent? But, imagine Clemson at Boise State, Alabama at Boise State. I mean, someone like that for a spot in the quarterfinals, that once again showing the beauty of the 12-team playoff, the beauty of college football. So is he that clear Heisman winner? Absolutely. He's going to rush for about a little over 2,000 yards is what it's looking like. He's on pace to rush for over 2,400 yards and over 34 touchdowns. Again, I don't care what level you're playing. I don't care what opponent you're playing. I don't care what conference you're playing. Those numbers are unreal. He deserves it. Barring some crazy, again, injury or drop-off, he deserves it. So, yes, that's a way to end my night. And, Scotty, heck yeah, November 9th, Baylor, Arkansas basketball, I will be watching. I won't be there, but I will be watching. That is getting me excited, too. We're a few weeks out from the start of college basketball, and that's when everything's coming together. We'll have college football on, college football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, World Series are coming up in about a week or two. It's the best time of the year, man. I'm telling you. The sports equinox, right? When everything kind of comes together and is playing at the same time, we're on pace for that. And I know that college football season is getting towards the end of the year, which is sad on one end, but really exciting on the other, considering the craziness that we've got coming up. It all starts, of course, in week 8. Big games coming your way here in just a few days. And predictions for those games coming your way, continuing tomorrow right here on the channel. So, guys, thank you so much for being here on another Wednesday night live stream. These never get old. Never get old, and we appreciate every single one of you and all of your support from Cooperative Gamer, Scotty B, Havoc, my man Cole. Thank you so much for calling in and for all of your support. DM, Alex TV, Mitch Thayer, Cole Converse, my man Sam over in Georgia. We appreciate you. So good to hear from you again. We'll talk soon. Tommy, let's see, Brady Glassman, he called in earlier. We appreciate you. DM, Murph the Surf, Gare Bear, J-Dog was here for a while. Robert, Austin Pruitt, and everybody else who I may not have mentioned. I think I said Scotty B, but I'll make sure I get back to him. All of you, we appreciate every single one of you, the continued support, the call-ins, the comments, and everything. It's what makes this channel thrive. It's what makes these live streams thrive, because if we didn't have engagement in the comment section or engagements on the phone line, we'd just be sitting here talking to ourselves, and there's no fun to be had there. But thank you so much again. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe. Check out everything down in the description below. That includes the expert picks. We did not get any new subs tonight. Still standing firm at 65. Hopefully, we'll have a few more over the next week. And each week gets us closer and closer to that 24-hour live stream. The link for that, though, again, down in the description below. Go check it out. Sign up. Win big with us. 8-2 run the best bets. Over 66% in the NFL right now. No other handicappers hitting those marks. They're just not. And no other handicappers offering you our picks for that low of a deal and for that long, for full 365 days. They're just not. So go check it out, guys. A link for it down in the description below. But until then, have a great rest of your night. Videos coming your way the rest of this week. And we'll be back again next Wednesday with another Wednesday night live stream. But until then, have a great night. And we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.